Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Order Up, the Final Order Cutoff show. We have a ton of great books we're going to be talking about for comics that are on Final Order Cutoff Monday, June 9th. We have an amazing special guest from Ghost Machine in the way of Maytal. And man, there is a lot of weird things on FOC this week that is unlike anything in the past 15 years. So we'll get to all that and more right after this opener.
Hi everyone, I'm Mathias Lewis, and I'm here to talk to you about FOC, or Final Order Cutoff. It is the last chance that we, the comic retailers, have to finalize our orders for comics releasing roughly 3 to 6 weeks out from the Mondays we finalize our orders. We deal with this every Monday, but this is important to you, the consumer, because it is the perfect time to reach out to your local comic shop if you want any specific or guaranteed items. If you want the Jim Lee or Dan Mora covers of Justice League Unlimited, reach out to your local comic shop and let us know. If you want the new issue of Lilo and Stitch, this is the perfect time to tell us. Because as long as you can get us the orders before Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that will give your local comic shop retailer enough time to finalize that order, adding in whatever it is you want, so they can guarantee when it releases, we have a copy set aside waiting for you. So, always reach out to your local comic shop before 6 p.m. on Mondays with the comics you want. The sooner, the better, to guarantee they're waiting for you.
All right, and we're talking about comics that are on Final Order Cutoff this Monday, June 9th, 2025. And this one's a weird one, Kyle. Like, are you ready for this?
No. No, I am. I mean, we just did our show prep, and I know what's on my list of things to order, but like, am I ready for this FOC to be the single most complicated FOC I've done since they did away with Marvel math? No.
Yeah. Oh, God, I do not miss Marvel math. But yes, so for those of you guys not in the know, traditionally we send you guys to one of now 3 websites. Previewsworld.com/Final Orders Due is owned by Diamond Comics, and Diamond Distribution has been having a very interesting time of things. We also use Lunar Distribution, which will cover all of your DC, Image, Mad Cave, Massive, etc. Oni Press, great one there. Udon. Then we have PRH Comics. PRH Comics is Penguin Random House, and that handles all of your Marvel, IDW, Dark Horse, Boom Studios, and Distillery, and now Tokyo Pop too. But we're in a weird state. So because of everything going on at Diamond, this is the first week in many, many years that previewsworld.com has become an unreliable source. And it's been getting that way for a while. I'm sure you guys have noticed various publishers fading away from there, most recently Boom Studios. And with recent announcements in the industry about PRH no longer distributing to Diamond, as well as Image and other publishers, Previous World seems to have just decided to cut information. And at this moment in time, previewsworld.com/Final Orders Due only has one book exclusively FOCing through them. Kyle?
I will say this before we dive into this much deeper. There are a number of people out there that I know who are currently working on a one-stop shop especially people who aren't related to any particular distributor, right? Some of the folks in the POS world, some of the folks in the collectible apps world are working on an alt, right? An option for you to have one place you can go and get all of your information. Creating something like that is going to take some serious time and energy. So, in the meantime, the bouncing around website to website is really your only viable option. As
Or
annoying as that sounds, huh?
I said, or watching this show, where we
Right,
try to
or
make
watching this show, right? But as annoying as that sounds, doing this research now is more important than ever because even your retailer doesn't necessarily know week to week where they're going to be able to go to get their information. So if you bring them your sheet or your list or your printout, or I write it on old backing boards most of the time because I've got a billion of them laying here, like this is a yellow backing board that I just use for random notes. I just take them, I hand them a board. Here's my list, right? Doing the work up front is only going to ingratiate yourself to an already tired and stressed out retailer.
Yeah. I can honestly say I've talked to so many retailers over the past few weeks that have been struggling, not only with final order cutoff, but some of the shops that had just had it so ingrained to always order through Diamond Distribution, they're having trouble transitioning over to Lunar and Penguin Random House, not knowing how ordering works, not knowing where to find items. And it takes a lot. So I feel for a lot of retailers. I help a lot of them out there. But if your local shop is in that position of transitioning and they're struggling, anything you can do to make their life easier is much appreciated. But I also talk to customers on a daily basis who are, complaining. I had one very directly point out, man, it's really annoying that prhcomics.com's FOC starts out random and you have to make a choice to have it be alphabetical, that you cannot get it to preload the entire FOC. You have to keep adding 36 at a time based on your setup. So there's a lot. There is a lot. And I think it's all the more reason why we need to remind everyone to share this with all of your comic loving friends, any of the customers at your local comic shop, the manager and ordering and owners of your local comic shop. Get this video in front of people so we can explain. Because right now I'm even working with PRH, Penguin Random House, to get somebody to come on and talk about how to easier use PRH Comics to get orders not only together for you, but for your local comic shop.
Easier than going full on the future is and hacking their website like people do.
All right, but let's dive into it. We got a lot on FOC this week, and we have a great guest later. So we're going to start off with previewsworld.com/final orders due. As always, you get a website like this. You can see the date. This is June 9th, and you can ignore most of this, sadly. The image selection is incomplete. The Marvel selection, as you see, is very incomplete. But you go down to comics and graphic novels, you'll see some of these items that are available through Lunar and PRH. The key thing that is exclusive to Diamond right now is Vampiro Rockabilly Apocalypse's final issue. Even though Massive Publishing now is distributed through Diamond, for some reason, Vampiro Rockabilly Apocalypse, which predates these things, is only on Diamond. And I don't want to ignore Michael Kingston's incredible comic because this has been a fun, crazy horror ride. Michael Kingston, a great creator. If you've ever been to a convention or a wrestling event, you've likely seen him pushing his amazing comics. But this is the final issue of Vampiro Rockabilly Apocalypse. And if you want it, your distributor has to go through Diamond, and it might be the only thing they are ordering through Diamond on FOC this week because it's the only one you're seeing. Hopefully, we will see some stability return to Previews World. Hopefully, we will see Dynamite, which is still exclusive, Antarctic Press, Xenoscope, some of the last people who are still hanging on to Diamond. Hopefully, we'll see some more FOCs from them. I don't know that we'll see them jump ship. We also have Aspen Comics, I think, is still exclusive, and they have their big upcoming ecos coming that way. But for now, It's a simple, easy jaunt to Previews World. I pretty much showed you everything there, but go ahead, look. There are 3 amazing covers. I love that cassette tape cover right there. That is clearly a Army of Darkness homage.
So there was a week where people who were exclusive to Diamond could not submit FOC information because of
Baseball.
because I believe of the bidding, right? This was the week where all of the the plates were spinning and balls were dropping and it just didn't work. So essentially, unless this stuff was put in before that point for this week, it's just like a skip week from Diamond, right? Nothing other than this stuff is going to be shipped this week. So this is a week where if you look at it next week, it may look very different to this week as opposed, and like last week looked very different to today. So just know that previewsworld.com /final orders due is not necessarily going away. We've not heard any announcements about that, right? Nobody said for sure what's happening, but things are going to get different quickly.
Yeah.
Because again, the inside baseball is going to inside baseball.
Yeah. And just to be clear though, even when Previews World, hopefully gets back and, fully moving again, it is always best to check the distributor that is the main distributor for the publishers you want to know about on FOC. Mm-hmm. Lunar will always be the best place to check for DC, Image Comics, Oni Press, Udon, Mad Cave, etc., etc., etc. I feel like I'm pulling off a King and I moment there. But Penguin Random House is definitively the place you're going to want to go for Marvel, for Dark Horse, IDW, Distillery, etc. And on that note, let's pop over to Penguin Random House. So prhcomics.com will get you a website like this. You can just simply scroll down here. You can look through all this here or click this link. It will say the FOC date, June 9th, 2025, this coming Monday, where you want to get your orders to your local shop before. And that will bring you to a website like this. Now, I have this organized titles A to Z, and I preloaded everything to make it a bit easier. But let's go over some of the PRH comics on FOC this week. And there's a lot. We get our Aliens and Avengers trade paperback finally FOC. We're still waiting on that final issue, but Jonathan Hickman, it's good. Oh man, Jonathan Hickman, he is just the hit of Marvel right now. A lot of great second printings, Arcbound, Arcana Royale, all continuing onwards. Got to give a shout out to John Jackson Miller's trade paperback. This is a DC item, but it is actually a Random House item. This is a prose novel set in the Batman 89 universe by John Jackson Miller, who is a very, very talented writer in both comics and prose. And this is a soft cover if you have not already grabbed it. We have, once again, a lot of continuing ones. So all the reason to check out PRH Comics so you can see everything on FOC. And the cool thing is PRH Comics will also give you non-comic items. They'll give you prose novels. They'll give you little golden books, children's novels, etc. So all sorts of fun there. I know me and Kyle were talking earlier about Daredevil, Cold Day in Hell, this beautiful Steve McNiven second printing that it looks like it's a Frank Miller homage. Were we able to figure out what that was homaging?
I stopped looking.
Okay. But a lot of great items there. And you can see even Mad Libs makes their way there.
Right. But, I mean, remember, guys, PRH has been distributing traditional book market books for as long as it's existed. So getting into the comic book game was maybe the transition for them. So, they're going to incorporate as much of their bread and butter in that traditional book market as makes sense for local comic shops. So again, seeing your Mad Libs, seeing your prose novels, seeing maybe some of your more light novels and kids graphic novels, little golden books, those kind of things. You're going to see all of that on PRH's website.
We have a sleepy child.
Yeah. More than maybe you would have on other websites previously. I apologize for yawning. But it's it's just one of those things you're gonna have opportunities to order other things through your LCS you wouldn't have before.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wake Kyle up with something I know will. So the first comic of PRH that we're going to talk about is actually surprisingly a Tokyo Pop comic. Now, Tokyo Pop has done its handful of single issues before, like Resident Evil. This one's an interesting one. It is called The Fourth Rope. The Fourth Rope is a wrestling comic from Tokyo Pop by a non-Japanese cast. Well, Tokyo Pop is known for doing its Japanese manga. This is not a Japanese cast, but it is about the IWE, the Intergalactic Wrestling Extreme, which is an intergalactic wrestling group. And as our protagonist is the man with all the belts, the top wrestler in the Federation, a newcomer comes in and threatens to take it all away from him. Interesting concept. I mean, what's the perspective from Kyle, our master of wrestling here on the show?
Well, you can tell it's a Japanese book because only the Japanese use 4 ropes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. In the U.S. and in American wrestling, generally you only see 3 ropes. New Japan and All Japan traditionally use 4. But the idea of having a Prince of Tennis-esque manga or a Assassination Classroom-esque manga about like a group of professional wrestlers, I'm down for. So the fact that Tokyo Pop is doing as close to that, I think, as is humanly possible without just doing it is something I'm very in for. Jeffrey O'Brien, is a writer whose name I know. So that gives me hope for a new book that otherwise I'd be like, are you just pandering to me because wrestling is real big right now? Or do you actually care? And because of this creative team and because it is Tokyo Pop, and again, I know the great folks at Tokyo Pop, I'm very optimistic about this book.
Yeah, this is, I believe, their first in their line of Noir Caesar. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this. All right. Also coming out of Japan. Well, before we get to that, I want to point out Giant Size X-Men. If you missed out on this massive #1 launch of this new summer event of Kamala Khan traveling through the key moments of Marvel's X-Men universe, this is a great way to grab the second printings because that Giant Size X-Men variant right there with a black backdrop. I was talking with a fellow colleague in the comic industry about the one issue, in my opinion, with Giant Size X-Men and all of its facsimiles and homages and reprints is white covers in the modern day never stay white. So I love that we went and did a black cover on this. So that's going to be really, really nice. But if we're going to talk about things that came out of Japan or taking a bit of a twist, let's talk about Godzilla and the big new twist from IDW as we are making the new Kaisei era shared Godzilla universe. There are several books that are going to be in this shared universe. The first one being The Main Godzilla by Tim Seeley. Now, Kyle and I were talking with a lot of the creators back in February about this. All of these series look amazing. They all have great pitch points. I love an idea of a shared Godzilla universe and ongoing Godzilla comics, which is not happening, enough. This is exciting because Godzilla is not our protagonist in the Godzilla title. We are dealing with the G-Force, a group that, it's not the G-Force you think. It's no gotcha man. A group of people in America that are dealing with kaiju attacks on American soil. Tim Seeley has it just a punch-in-your-face group of completely outlandish heroes that don't want to work together, and it is such a fun draw. I am in love with this.
Kaijus have been a theme of my day, so I'll leave it at that. But I said to Aub at Comics Pro to let everybody know more Godzilla, less people around Godzilla. When we read Godzilla books, we don't care about the people. We care about the Godzilla. So more Godzilla, less people are on Godzilla, and the Kaisei era seems to be a return to Godzilla being the main focus, not some random 13-year-old whose brain is implanted with Godzilla, or a Godzilla who is currently the home to the Venom symbiote.
So I
So,
hate to say, not the case. Having already read issue number 1, you are dealing with a young man whose power is to steal Kaisei or the giant, kaiju energy and absorb it. Godzilla only in a handful of pages, but it's
right,
actually amazing for that.
in this universe, with some of the new crossover shared stuff they're doing, you're going to have essentially a what does Godzilla do on his day off kind of concept, or what is a, you know, I was promised that there were going to be more just Godzilla centric books and less books about tertiary related characters.
We'll have to see how well that promise holds, but I
I
will
was
say
also promised no Godzuki.
that so far seems to hold true. But yeah, the first 3 number 1s I've had the chance to get an early read on, and they're all phenomenal and in ways I would have never expected, because I agree with Kyle. Like, they should be Godzilla centric, but the characters and the universe that has been created is phenomenal. The concepts and locations and what the state of the world looks like, it is a very different alternative take of Earth from where we exist right now. And to be honest, where we exist right now, I kind of like an alternate take. So, new Godzilla series. There are 9 separate covers on this. This is amazing. I think people are going to love it. I think that I hate to say it, I think stores are not going to order enough of this. This is something that if you want to give this a shot, you need to reach out to your store, let them know you wanted to try this new Kaisei era. Godzilla is going to be awesome. This first issue, I loved every panel on every page of it. It was awesome. So next up, we got to talk about an odd one. I'm talking about a prose book for once. So last week on FOC, Dynamite had the Pumpkin Queen series as a graphic novel. Now, the sequel to the Pumpkin Queen, Hour of the Pumpkin Queen, is getting a prose novel. The first printing hardcover is on FOC at Penguin Random House right now. This is not a sequel to the graphic novel we FOC'd last week. This is a sequel to the prose novel, but it likely means, hopefully, that Dynamite will do a comic graphic novel adaptation of this someday down the road. But if you want to continue reading the prose, this is the way to go. The soft cover of the first book of The Pumpkin Queen is also on FOC this week, so you can get the sequel in hardcover and you can get the original in soft cover, however you want to do it. Obviously, you can go back to Dynamite over at Diamond and request that your store order the graphic novel if you prefer to read it in sequential art, as many of you I'm sure will. So all sorts of fun there. Got to give a shout out to Imperial, because Kyle and I spent like a good 10 minutes talking about how great Imperial was this week. It is one of my favorite Marvel books that has released this week. Imperial issue 2 on FOC, because Jonathan Hickman is giving us our new Annihilation level event. And you get great covers like that by Scotty Young and Forbes. Just, all sorts of amazingness right there. Now, the big one for you Marvel Rival fans, to you West Coast Avengers fans, whether you love him with Gwenpool or you loved him with Deadpool, it's Jeff, and he is the greatest of Marvel's pets. Let's be honest. It's Jeff. Infinity Paws is a ridiculously amazing Infinity comic that is finally coming to print by Jason Liu and now Fuji. You are going to get all sorts of Jeff love, as well as everyone that you enjoy, from Cosmo to Lockjaw, Lucky the Pizza Dog, and more. This is going to be a fun, goofy one for all ages, and particularly one for people who've been loving all of Jeff thanks to the new Marvel Rivals video game. For those of you guys who know a younger reader in your life, there's also a Funko Pop Little Golden book for Crypto Hero in Training, because Let's face it, we all love dogs. Cats and dogs are guaranteed wins across the board in this industry. By the way, there is that Long Live the Pumpkin Queen soft cover. If you want to read the first prose novel, prose, once again, meaning it is all text, it is not sequential art. Scrolling through, we're going to get all sorts of great trades and single issues. But the next big one that might not be too reading heavy for those who just love their artwork. The Marvel swimsuit special is back. We used to have these oversized magazine swimsuit specials in the 90s with people like Adam Hughes doing artwork then. Well, Adam Hughes is back doing the cover on Marvel swimsuit special, Friends, Foes, and Rivals. Expect a lot of pinups, maybe a little bit of story in there, but it is definitely going to be a hot collectible with a lot of hot covers. And take a look at all of the amazing covers. One of them even made our top 10 in a notable position. Let your retailer know what cover you want, especially if you want multiple covers, because it's always hard to gamble as a retailer on, our consumers going to want just one cover or multiple. Let us know, make it easier on us. I mean, personally, I love that Taryn Clark cover because it has the old 90s Marvel swimsuit logo. I mean, Kyle, did you ever get any of the old Marvel swimsuit specials?
I have a few. I always was more of a Xenosoap swimsuit special guy. The swimsuits seem to be smaller. But I love these Marvel special editions, the one shots they do, like the Pride Month one shots. That when they did the AAPI Voices one, they do the summer swimsuit issue. When they've done their one shot Christmas stories in the past. I always love when they do that because a lot of times it gives these characters a chance to just go, that box we normally have you work in? Light it on fire and do something else. And so you get new character introductions, you get changes to canon, you get all kinds of good stuff in these books that you wouldn't otherwise get. So
yeah,
I always quite like them.
Well, one thing I really love, a customer brought up to me a while back his discovery because he was like, "Were there Marvel swimsuit issues?" I'm like, "Yeah." Why do you ask? He's like, "So there's a band I really like called Cigarettes After Sex, and they apparently have a song called Silver Sable that directly has the lyrics Silver Sable style back in a Marvel swimsuit special from the early 90s, page 11, the second edition." And I had to go, I have that issue. I had to dig the issue out and I was able to find the actual pages from that. It literally was a song that lyrically defines one page, one pinup from a specific comic issue, which I gave a lot of credit for. But because of that, a major band like them targeting this, I feel it's all the more reason that something like the Marvel swimsuit special could be a very viable and demanded item.
Right. There are a lot of people who will pick up their first Marvel book because of this.
Yeah.
Or they will pick up their first art book because of this and be exposed to so many great artists. So there's no bad thing about these, other than maybe if you let your significant other find them and they tend to be jealous of fictional women.
Well, I mean, don't worry. There's some beautiful fictional men in there. Like, take a look at Cyclops right there. Wow.
Right.
Talk
Maybe you gotta
about
get right. Maybe you gotta get her one so you can get you one.
yeah. I mean,
Just throwing
Human
it out
Torch
there.
is a little hot. Colossus is quite the shiny man. Not complaining. One I will point out for cover though, Miles Morales, number 35. I love Hercules and Ares versus Miles and the Greek design of that cover. Beautiful piece there. But another weird one, because PRH Comics allows us to talk about weird one that I want to bring up that might be perfect for the Minecraft fan in your family, or maybe you're the Minecraft fan or fanatic, is Minecraft Roll for Adventure. This is a unique book that is not a tradition. It is almost like a choose your own adventure with luck because it is dice based. If you ever tried the You Are Deadpool comic series that was a choose your own adventure where you had to roll dice to see if you made shots or hit your targets, it's going to be similar to that. And this actually comes with dice. For $20, this is a really cool and unique item. There's not a lot of things out there like this, but it has a lot of fun for all ages. And I am quickly discovering, well, my young son is quite into Minecraft. I have friends who are in their 20s and 30s that have been playing Minecraft for decades, I guess. And Minecraft is an all ages thing. So this could be a really unique and fun one. And once again, well, it might not be something your comic shop traditionally stocks. If you request it and they have a Penguin Random House account, which they likely do if they're getting Marvel, IDW, or Dark Horse, this is something cool they can order for you. And it could be a unique one. Another one I want to point out is for you Webtoons fans. There is a very popular comic called Muted on Webtoons. And you're asking, well, then why would I want a physical copy? Because this Muted comes both in softcover and hardcover and deals with additional bonus content you will not find on Webtoons. As well as if you're somebody like me who just doesn't want to scroll on his phone for his comics, you like the physical form. This is a great comic filled with witches, interesting, paranormal fantasy lore, and strong, beautiful artwork and protagonists with very strong female characters. Muted, Volume 1 is on FOC through Penguin Random House. You can choose softcover or hardcover, depending on the price range you want to grab. And it is an awesome one. So I'm very excited for this because I am not the type of person to read comics through scrolling on my phone. And this is the way I'd prefer it. But this is an amazing looking book. And then on top of that, extra content to remind you why scrolling on your phone is not the ideal way. Go to your local comic shop and request a copy of Muted or other Webtoon and web comics so you can enjoy them with the extra bonus stuff in a physical form. Now, I don't know if Kyle is still with us, but one of the really cool things coming out in theaters today is the new Predator movie. Kyle, I don't know, are you with us? Are you excited about the new Predator movie?
Team Predator over Team Alien all day long, baby.
There it is. So we have the reprints of Predator versus Spider-Man today on FOC, but the other one is the new Predator Black, White, and Blood, which is a massive anthology of various Predator stories. You're getting everyone from Joe Kelly and Alvaro Lopez, Elliot Rahal, Sarah Gailey, and more doing this. And I've always loved these Black, White, and Blood anthologies, whether it was the Star Wars ones or Aliens ones. You get some incredible content from creators who normally might not be able to do their own, mini series or one shot because they're big names or they don't have it in their schedules. Having them do these short stories that are big, bombastic tales focused around superstar characters is always awesome. So new miniseries focusing on quick, badass Predator stories, top tier talent. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, the Elliot Rahal one is the one I'm most excited for. His stories, I think he's going to do great things with Predator. And again, being limited to only the 3 colors, I think it forces the artists to be more interesting as well.
Yeah, and a lot of great covers. I really, really love those covers on there. So fun thing to point out with prhcomics.com, by the way, if you see that star right there, it's saying an incentive variant. That means not all stores have the ability to order it. It is a ratio variant, and not all stores will always qualify. It's always worth asking your local comic shop if they are qualifying for that variant and how much it might cost, because it will normally be a price above cover because they are hard to qualify for. So next up, keeping it cosmic and space themed, Star Trek is focusing on some of the least recognized but most common characters in the Star Trek universe, the beloved Red Shirts. Christopher Cantwell, who does the incredible Defiant comic series, is giving us a new miniseries focused on the Red Shirts. So basically think of the Lower Decks cartoon, less comedic and more serious. This is going to be an interesting one. I'm all in. I really want to know what you can do with the horrible stories, because the common joke is the Red Shirts always die. They're there just to be the peons that fall unnamed before the incredible officers of the Starfleet Academy. What happens?
Red Shirts do always die, but do you expect more if we're always sending them to planets we don't know anything about, just without PPE or a spacesuit, or we're just beaming them down and hoping it's okay? Come on.
Yeah. I will say, well, it didn't make our top 10. I absolutely adore this B cover. That's the recruitment. Just everything
Yes.
about it. It's much more lower decks than the content of this, but it looks amazing. I mean, they forget to mention that, you want to see the galaxy. Well, you're probably only going to see one location and nothing else for the rest of your life, as little as that might be. But I'm excited about this one. This should be really, really fun. So red shirts, who knows? We'll see where that goes. A lot of great covers on that one. Then we're going to jump all the way down. Remember, check out prhcomics.com to see all of these items on FOC and let your shop know what you want. But the next big one is going to be a major first appearance key issue that's going to draw a lot of attention upon release. Uncanny X-Men 17 gives us the first appearance of a new character named Mutina, as the X-Men deal with a Hollywood director making a mutant film where the mutant is a serial murderer horror star. Now, I think this is going to catch a lot of attention. It is, like the movie poster homage as the main cover is going to get everyone. There's a lot of wonderful variants on this. Gail Simone's books have been selling out hand over fist as everyone is loving this Uncanny X-Men run. And then with Vecchio's interior, it's only going to get better. First appearance of a new mutant, Mutina. I mean, tell me you wouldn't want to go back in time and grab extra copies of the first appearance of Jubilee, Kitty Pryde, and Emma Frost, Rogue, or so many of these other classic mutant characters, Kyle. Like, this is an awesome one. I think it's going to be big. But we'll talk more on that one a little bit later. It's got two more key ones we want to talk about on PRH Comics. First is a manga. We don't get to talk about manga too much, but this will be our second time talking about Tokyo Pop today. You Can't Live All on Your Own. This is a wonderful manga from Mizoko Tsuno that deals with four girls living together in Tokyo in their late 20s as they're trying to discover how to live their lives. When you often hear about people talk about adulting and how difficult it can be, there are generations that will look down on that. There are generations that can all too heavily relate, and there are generations that don't look forward to it. But it is something that people are experiencing. The modern day can be difficult to live in. And this is an interesting take of manga of these young women trying their best to find their way in the world while trying to deal with living in a very expensive city that is modern day Tokyo. It is a very fun take that I think a lot of people, particularly of manga fans, can relate to and will enjoy. Well worth getting your order in, as hopefully your local comic shop has a Penguin Random House account. So the last one I want to talk about at PRH is Zombie Tales, the complete collection. This is a collection of amazing Boom Studios books, with the last of these coming out back in 2009. So as Boom is celebrating their 20th anniversary, this is definitely a cool one that goes back to the early part. You're getting all sorts of incredible people, from Mark Waid to Keith Giffen, even Fabio Moon, doing various zombie stories. It is an anthology trade paperback of unique zombie tales from top-tier creators early in the history of Boom. This is one of those series that, in my opinion, helped define Boom and watch them grow as they were bringing in all these superstar creators. Some of them not always the hugest names at the time, but definitely big now, as well as classic creators like Mark Waid and Keith Giffen, who were superstars at the rise of Boom. This is a fun one. It is a very affordable trade paperback, $20 for 428 pages. You're getting, I want to say, well over 15 issues in that. And I mean, who doesn't love a zombie tale? But with that, I think it is time. We're going to do a quick commercial break and then come back with our special guest to talk about an amazing Image comic that we'll be discussing later at Lunar. So let's hit that commercial break, and then we'll be joined with the incomparable Maytal.
Download our app on Google Play and the App Store. It's so simple, even my mommy can use it.
Sure, comic books are beautiful, but underneath, there's something more authentic and exciting. The original art. See the pencils, the lines, the shading, as if you were there in the studio watching the artist work. Getting a peek at comics' backstage is easy with the original art experience.
All right, Friday night, guys. Thank you for being here. To be doing anything, the fact that you're here means the world to me.
Nick's pieces are always value priced with your budget in mind, for the beginning collector to the veteran.
And this is gorgeous. You got Aquaman and Mira.
Join the original art experience with Nick and our friendly crew of regulars, even if it's just to enjoy the art. Fridays at 7. It's all part of the experience.
Did you know that Arthur, King of the Britons in Monty Python and the Holy Grail was played by a famous Graham? Check out another famous Graham by following our Instagram.
Back, everyone. We're going to continue talking about amazing comics on FOC this Monday, June 9th. And one of my favorite ones that we're going to be talking about is the newest piece of Hyde Street, Sisterhood. So, without further ado, I want to introduce the incredible hot new writer, Maytal Zchut. Maytal.
Thank you for having me, Mathias. I really appreciate it. This is awesome.
Thank you for joining us, Maytal. I know that there is a lot going on this week, but one of the big ones that you have is the newest piece of Hyde Street. You have already brought us some amazing stuff with Devour, but now we have Sisterhood. Can you tell us a little bit about what is happening in this new comic?
Sure. So basically, Sisterhood is about two lifelong best friends who, when they go to college, they start growing apart. And one of them ends up dying in a hazing accident. Then the other one, wanting her back, ends up on Hyde Street, where she meets the psychic Sisterhood. And, you know, on Hyde Street, you might get what you wish for, but in kind of a twisted way. So that's the general idea behind Sisterhood.
All right. Now, for people who haven't had the chance yet to dive into the world of Hyde Street, can you tell us a little bit about what Hyde Street is and some of the pieces that you have added to this universe?
Absolutely. So Hyde Street is basically a street that exists in every town, in every city, in every timeline, that you can end up on if you've done something wrong. If you've done something bad, you might end up on Hyde Street. And there's the residents of Hyde Street, which are in the Hyde Street ongoing book that Jeff is writing. And those residents are basically collecting souls. And from my perspective, the books that I'm writing are generally taking place from the people who end up on Hyde Street. So if you've read Devour, you might see that there's a woman who ends up on Hyde Street and meets Miss Goodbody, who's one of the residents of Hyde Street. But the primary focus of the books that I am writing are the characters that end up on this street and then interact with the residents. So some of the characters that I've added are Miss Goodbody and Sisterhood, who actually appears in Hyde Street 5, if you've already read it. And Sisterhood is one of the characters from the Sisterhood comic who we interact with from the characters that I've written that show up on Hyde Street. So some of the ideas that I've kind of try to talk about, or how you kind of end up on Hyde Street, but also what is another story? Like, what are these souls that are being taken, and what happened to them to lead them there? And I get to talk a little bit about the residents, but mostly I want to focus on these stories of these, in some ways, victims of Hyde Street.
All right. Well, let's go back to Devour, your first one shot on Hyde Street.
Yes.
I mean, you have a great history. You've worked with Jeff before on television with Stargirl.
Yeah.
And then you entered Ghost Machine, and you're one of the key figures. I think, in fact, you are the first person at Ghost Machine that's not Jeff Johns to write a published standalone. I think you even broke out before Peter Tomasi. Is that correct?
I did. I remember learning that, and I was like, oh my God, this is intimidating, because, going after Jeff, Jeff's books are incredible, and everybody's books, like Pete's books are incredible. And our other writers, Brad Meltzer and Lamont McGee, like their books are awesome as well that are coming out. But to be the first one to come right after Jeff, it was kind of intimidating in a lot of ways, but it ended up being really well received, which I was really happy about, because it was a very personal story to me. So I didn't know how the public was going to receive it. And I feel like once it got out there, I felt like people really understood the messaging and what I was trying to say with the book. So going after Jeff was definitely very intimidating. But after having seen the reception, I was very proud of what I put out. I was proud of it even before, with the incredible artist Layla Lees, and with Alex Sinclair on colors and Rob Lee on lettering. It was just an amazing collaboration. And it was something that, again, was very personal to me, personal to Layla also. Like, we worked so hard to put an amazing book out there. So I'm so proud of kind of what it is. But Sisterhood is next level for me. Like, it's like we've transitioned into a new, it's a mini series. It's something new. And I am, again, really proud of this book. I'm proud of what Devour was for what it was. And I'm proud of Sisterhood for what it is as well. Because I think it kind of, you can see the collaboration in a way that we were still figuring ourselves out in Devour. We were still figuring out that team, that group dynamic. And now we've kind of figured it out. And you could feel that when you read Sisterhood, I feel.
All right. So before we do the deep dive into Sisterhood and people place their orders this Monday on FOC, I believe that's the original artwork for Devour you have behind you, right?
Yes, it is here. This one, yeah, this is the all the original covers from Devour, and I am so proud to have these. This is the best piece of art in my place. I really think it's incredible to have this, because they're like right up on the wall in the living room, and I love it. They're like full display. You walk into the apartment and you immediately see these, because I'm like so proud to have those. And I'm grateful that the artists allowed me to have them. And it just feels really special, because it is my first comic, and that, like, this will always represent to me the first comic that I was ever able to create, and the first story I was able to put out there that was a very personal one to me, and not, writing for someone else's story. It was my story, and that was very special to me. So to have the artwork from everybody who did the covers, first of all, it's incredible art, just like objectively incredible art, but like it also is very personal to me.
And you would never know this is your first comic, because you came in swinging with over 50 pages of intense content. Can you give us a little bit of a pitch for anybody who hasn't read Devour? What is the quick pitch of Devour?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So Devour is basically a story about a young woman who is preparing for her wedding. And in doing so, her mom and her grandma are putting all of this pressure on her to lose weight. And her mom and her grandma are ultra, ultra, ultra skinny, and almost in an unhealthy way. And, she's trying to lose weight, and she doesn't really know what to do. And then at some point in the story, you meet Miss Goodbody, who is a resident of Hyde Street and is selling this product called Devour, which promises to make you thin with anything you do. Like, it promises to make you thin, but all you need is one, but you don't really know what that is. So Miss Goodbody is kind of selling that to them. And then, you learn about these characters through this story and what they're going through. And I have a lot of really personal elements to the story. I think it is very much for people who have read it or people who haven't. It talks about what we experience as humans, as people, and the pressure we experience to look a certain way, to be a certain size. And that's very personal to me, and I think to a lot of people.
I mean, it is an amazing, relatable piece, especially as somebody preparing to, go to his wedding and needing to lose some weight. I think it's something that everyone, regardless of who you are, can in some way relate to. And yet it makes it that much more horrifying. Like, this is a masterpiece in that.
Oh,
But the
thank
cool
you.
part is how well that directly ties into Hyde Street. Whether you've been reading Hyde Street and you want to know more of what it's like to fall onto this horrifying, road in the middle of somewhere, or you have never read Hyde Street. And the cool thing about this, if for any reason you haven't, you can go to your local comic shop and pick up Devour. And if your local comic shop needs, they can place orders through Lunar or Diamond and still grab the second printing of this awesome book, because it was so amazing. It's already sold out and gone to a second printing. Now, let's make sure that everyone doesn't have to worry about missing out on Sisterhood, as you can still place your orders before this Monday to guarantee a first printing. What is the pitch on Sisterhood?
So Sisterhood, I might have said it earlier, but Sisterhood is a story about two best friends who are lifelong best friends and end up in college together. And in college, they're starting to grow apart. And one of them ends up dying during a hazing accident at a sorority. And the other one ends up on Hyde Street, where she meets the psychic Sisterhood. And she ends up wanting her friend back, but you kind of can get what you want on Hyde Street, but it always comes with a caveat or a twist. So that's the basic premise of Sisterhood.
All right. And there are 3 amazing open order covers, as we can see off camera here. You have the A cover by Layla, you have the B cover by Ivan Reyes, and then this C cover by Peter. These are all amazing ones that really capture, like this intense tale and show the denizens of Hyde Street.
Absolutely. There's also a D incentive cover.
Oh yeah, the 1 in 20 by Raymond Gay. We'll have that on screen right now. Beautiful piece. It all just really give this, very different tones. Like, each one of these covers gives a very different feeling. If you had to choose a favorite, like which is the one you're pushing for?
I can't choose my favorite. That's like, I think they're all incredible covers. And I think they really focus on Sisterhood, the character, in a lot of these covers. I think what's unique about Peter Snaberg's cover is that it focuses on the sorority, and you kind of see another aspect of it. But the other 3 are very much Sisterhood focused, which I think is great, because you want that tie-in to Hyde Street, and you want to understand how this connects to the bigger picture. So I really love all of the covers, and I think everybody did a phenomenal job, and I'm just happy to have them involved in this. And I think any of the covers would be a good choice. All of the covers would be the best choice.
There you go. So definitely reach out to your local retailer and let them know which cover you want, especially if you want all of the covers, or you want to qualify for that amazing 1 in 20 variant. Remember, not all comic shops may hit that, but reach out to your local retailer, see if it's something they're going to, figure out how much they're going to want for it. Sisterhood is going to hit stores July 2nd, which is really exciting, because I love Hyde Street. Jeff's doing a great job with the various denizens, but it is so much more exciting to see this perspective of this. How did it come about where you were the one taking these one-shots and writing, from a different point of view of Hyde Street?
So I actually remember when we were discussing Hyde Street as a concept, like Jeff was thinking, how can we do this horror universe? And we were still early on, figuring out what that would look like. And then we kind of connected all the dots. Like, I had my idea for a character, like when I was coming up with Devour, I had my idea for the story that was very personal to me, and we kind of all tied it together because we were thinking about our ideas at the same time. So that's how it kind of all connects. And now when I think of a story for Hyde Street, I really think of how we connect it back to High Street. Like, what are those characters? Like, Devour was a very different circumstance because I was still just thinking, you know, what's a personal story to me, and how can I tell that? And then it kind of all came together in a beautiful way. But now that High Street is more established, it's fun to come up with, like, who are those characters that are there? Like the psychic of Hyde Street. Like, that's so interesting to me. And that was definitely coming from a story that was also personal to me in a different way, which I'm happy to talk about. Basically, Sisterhood, the story is about, you know, friendship in a way that I don't think I see very often. It's not to say that I've never seen stories talk about friendship, but it's something unique about like a friend breakup, which I think most stories might focus on like a relationship breakup, but we don't talk about the significant relationship of friends, lifelong friends, or friends for a very long time. And when you go through something where you lose that friend in some way, and maybe they're still around, but you're not really friends anymore. Like, that's kind of this idea and where it comes from. It's when you feel that betrayal from a friend and what that looks like for people. And I think that's what's so interesting about Sisterhood as a comic, is that it talks about a topic that we don't see very often in a way that I think I haven't really seen at all. Like, I'd like to think it's a unique concept. So that is what I think is so great about Sisterhood. And also how it ties to Hyde Street is just great, because you have Sisterhood, the psychic, which will tie back in the Hyde Street books as well.
Yeah. And I mean, you do the most damaging storytelling by luring us in with such relatable concepts, from Devour, where everyone's got some issue with their weight and how they were perceived. Sisterhood giving us, we all have hopefully that friend that we connect to and, you know, have fallen away from. Like, you give this innocent lead in and then just slap us in the end with this horrifying twist that is the most Hyde Street thing possible. But there's one part that I noticed rereading this before the interview. Going back to Hyde Street #1, our two protagonists of your first two one-shots, Sisterhood and Miss Goodbody, both have the exact same score on the opening scoreboard. They both have 9,997. Is there a reason for this?
So that was actually, if you want to know the reasoning behind that, that's a Jeff thing, because that was definitely like, Jeff was talking about, what are we doing with these characters? Like, how are we kind of connecting them and things like that? And so that number definitely came from Jeff. I don't want to take credit for coming up with that number for where they would be. So it ties into the ideas where you'll see where it's going with the Hyde Street books. So that's something that I think if you keep reading Hyde Street, you'll see where it's going with that. So where Jeff's going with that, because I don't want to spoil too much, but you know, some of these characters, as you know, appear in Hyde Street, the ongoing, and will continue to appear in Hyde Street, the ongoing.
All right. Now, Devour was a one-shot. It was done in one.
Yes.
You got that really intense story of this family. Sisterhood, that's not the case, correct? There's more to come.
It's a 5-issue miniseries. So it tells the start to finish story in 5 issues. It basically gives me more space to tell the story, but it also serves the story very well, because there are things where you can kind of end on more of a cliffhanger as opposed to telling a start to finish story. So I've really loved telling this in miniseries form. And I think it really serves the story to tell it that way.
Now, with that, are we going to see it cross over a little bit more directly from Hyde Street, where you're going to want to read them concurrently? Or is it something where you can read just Sisterhood separately?
You can absolutely read just Sisterhood separately. I would not, for any readers, if they like Sisterhood, you're going to like Hyde Street, you know? So for that reason, one, I wouldn't recommend not picking up Hyde Street. Hyde Street is an amazing comic within itself. Like, you should definitely grab that, because you're going to just love the stories. But even if you don't read it, you'll understand Sisterhood. However, yes, there are tie-ins and things that you'll see that kind of tie together. And the Sisterhood character, I mean, we've already introduced her in Hyde Street 5. So you're already kind of seeing that character that ties back into the story. So I would say you'll get more out of it if you read both, and you'll understand the stories better if you read both.
Absolutely. So once again, another amazing entry point into Hyde Street, whether you're reading it, whether you just want to get a piece of amazing and far too relatable horror that will drag you kicking and screaming when you're the one that chose that path onto the road. Sisterhood, issue number 1, FOCs this Monday, June 9th. You will get it in stores July 2nd. A number of great covers. But if people want to see what is coming next from Maytal, where can we find you online to see other upcoming, endeavors in Ghost Machine and elsewhere?
Absolutely. So first of all, I think everyone should follow on Instagram, Ghost Machine Pro, just because you can get everything that we're doing, from my books to other people's books to, every book that Ghost Machine is producing. You can get all the info on our Instagram. And we also have a Facebook page and I believe a TikTok. So there are other places you can kind of get all that information. And for me personally, if you want to follow me and see where my books are, you can follow me at Zchut. It's spelled Mzchut, and that's on Instagram.
Awesome. All right. So with that, do not forget to get your orders in this Monday for Sisterhood, a Hyde Street story, issue number 1. Make sure you choose which cover you want, or all the covers, because, that's clearly the best way to go. I mean, Maytal obviously went that route with Devour, as you can see in the background. Let your retailer know. Make sure you let it pick up Hyde Street trade paperback. If you have missed the single issue, should be available soon. And thank you guys all for coming out and getting this order and supporting Ghost Machine. Thank you, Maytal, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Mathias. This was wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for reading. I'm really excited to see how people receive this. It's very exciting.
All right, we're going to do a quick commercial break, and we will be back with more comics on Final Order Cutoff this Monday, June 9th.
Live from New York. What? Oh, sorry. Live from Cleveland? It's Friday night? It's Friday Night Live! With Nancy McCann. And Ricky. And sometimes Carlos. And featuring boxes and boxes of rare comics. Unique collectibles. Lots of smiles and conversations with new friends. Friday Night Live with Comics Unlimited. Friday night from 9 to 11 on The Experience.
Hey, we're back. That came back in the middle of that commercial.
Well, I didn't want to play the whole 1 minute opener again. So I kind of was like, where's a good place to cut it? I'll cut it here. I was wrong. That was on me.
So we're back with more after that quick interview with Maytal. Oh, man, I'm so excited about Sisterhood. But yes, I'm also excited about some of the other incredible Image books and DC books and other books that you will find at lunardistribution.com. So let's load that up on screen and talk about books that are on FOC this Monday, June 9th. All right. So when you go to lunardistribution.com, you'll see a website like this. You can just scroll on down over to upcoming FOC. Make sure you're on the right date, June 9th. And you can click through and see all that. See, the Absolute Green Lantern is continuing onward alongside Absolute Superman. Ooh, this week's issue. That was fun. One big one I want to always point out, Adventure Time. Like, I am so excited to see Adventure Time back since we don't have the show on air yet as they are in production for new seasons. This is a cool one. A particular one I want to point out. A lot of times we get blanks that are different colors, but it is rare where you get one outright calling out a character as the Marceline gray sketch cover. I mean, it does look just like Marceline's skin color. So particularly fun for you vampire fanatics of Ooh. So this is another cool one I want to point out. For anybody who has a young reader in their life, I'm assuming and kind of hoping we don't have young readers that are watching. Kyle's trying to stop me.
Is Marceline the same color as the Count?
No,
Well,
the Count is purple.
I think their skin color is very similar, and I'm having a moment and keep talking. But
I think the Count is
all
purple.
cartoon counts or all cartoon vampires grayish purple?
That's very possible. Well, leading into that, and a wonderful all ages for fans of Sesame Street is going to be the new Aqua Manatee. Now, having
Glad you
actually
said
read
going
through
with
this,
that.
a great all ages one, and I was going to make the comparative that it was very much in the vein of Narwhal and Jelly until just now. I read the entire book with my kid, and I only now read it's from the creator of Narwhal and Jelly, which makes so much sense. But this does not focus on Aquaman, believe it or not. It is not Aquaman being turned into a manatee. It is about a manatee who gains superpowers and his friend, his fishy friend, as they join up with Aquaman to fight crime.
Immediately better than actual Aquaman.
I'm not gonna lie. Look, I do enjoy my Aquaman, but yes, it is better than Aquaman.
Yeah. Oh well, and Narwhal and Jelly is such a great book.
Yeah, like
And
somewhere
you know
in the other
this
room, I have my son's entire collection of Narwhal and Jelly.
this is giving me its Jeff vibes from DC. Like
Yeah,
it kind of has that potential to kind of just hit that vein in the 40 somethings of us all that's like, you know what? The world is so super serious right now. Let's just go read Aquamanatee. Like, the same reason we're all latching on to Jeff, the same reason we're all like, latching on to Gert from Fairyland, right? It's just this sort of hindbrain thing. And I'm very excited for this one. This is one that I ordered at least, I think I ordered 6 copies of this book for me.
just for you, exclusively for you, not giving away any of them.
Well, no, I've got one for all the nieces and nephews and then one for me.
Yeah, no, it is an exciting one, and I think kids will love it. I mean, I know that kids love Narwhal and Jelly, from the sequential art down to the plushes that come out. So now I'm really hoping there's going to be an Aqua Manatee plush to join Narwhal and Jelly in my son's, collection of stuffed animals.
Insert Fry, take my money meme.
There you go. So next one I want to talk about. Image is pumping out facsimiles this week on FOC, possibly throughout the future, with some of their classic hits. Now, some of these don't go back too far. They're very modern releases. Kind of shocks me that we need facsimiles of them. Yet here I am thinking, oh my God, I'm going to buy every one of these facsimiles, even though I own all these single issues, because I do love foil covers. And I am the hook, line, and sinker catch on every foil cover, even though I own the originals. But I mean, Astro City, that's a good one, right, Kyle?
Well, like Astro City 1's like a $25 book at this point. So it isn't, while it isn't a huge lift, it isn't, ASM 300 or one of, some of the other books we've seen facsimile lately. It is a little bit of a lift for some folks. So this is an opportunity for people to get Astro City. And the other thing I would point out, and I was telling Matthias this story before the show, is I was very opposed to Marvel doing some of the $1 reprints it did back in the day, like the ASM 300 reprint, because that book, while expensive, wasn't insane. Well, next thing you know, they were announcing the Venom movies, and that book went nuts. So we don't know why they're pumping out the more recent facsimiles, but it's a good time to jump in on a book, one, you haven't read, or two, that is a little bit out of your price range, or three, if you think that, eventually you're going to need these covers to make hats to protect you from government radio waves or something. I don't know what, a foil does nothing for me, guys. But if you're into that, great. But this is just an opportunity to jump on some stuff that maybe you haven't already gotten. Now, some of this stuff, and we said it earlier, I've got trades of it, first printing trades that like nobody wants. So some of these I question, but like this, and there's a few others that absolutely I think are great ideas from Image.
Yeah. I mean, the one issue I have is I love reprints. I love people discovering comics I already loved that aren't always accessible. Not every store is going to have an Astro City in their back issue bins, but they can get a new copy and get people to discover this classic Kurt Busiek story. The one issue I have with facsimiles is like, do I really need the advertisements from this comic, like 30 years ago? I mean, like, look, I can appreciate a Sarah Michelle Gellar Got Milk ad as much as anyone, but some of these ones are not going to land as well. And the concept of a facsimile is it's supposed to be a facsimile, an exact reprint. When you have a foil cover or a blank cover, it's not a facsimile anymore. It's a reprint with new content. And to be honest, I can enjoy that. I would love updated covers. I'm going to buy the foil covers. You know what? There are going to be some of these blanks where there weren't blanks originally. There was no blank on Astro City originally. I am all for getting a different cover artist to do their take on some of these Astro City characters like Cleopatra or, Living Nightmare. So,
Yeah, and I look forward to being able to go and get like what we call here on the experience CCAs, right? Commission cover art of like Astro City, putting this in front of an artist friend who's a painter going, okay, do your best Alex Ross impression for me. See what that looks like. That will be a fun opportunity.
yeah, but these are definitely ones you're going to want to reach out to your local comic shop and let them know you want, because some comic shops are going to think we've already sold the original content enough to our customer base. Do they really want facsimiles? And if you do, you need to let us know.
It's true.
So,
Especially if your retailer maybe still has stock of the back issues, right? Like they might not jump up on a facsimile if they have on some of these other books that we're going to see, they still have old guard early issues or what are some of the other ones? But, just make sure you let them know which ones you want.
yeah, especially, I mean, if the store's sitting on 5 or 6 copies of an Astro City #1 first printing, they may not feel the need to get a facsimile, but you might want to remind them, look, I love it, but I don't want to pay the $25 for a first printing. I just want a reader copy. So $4, $5, that's.
Or they do what Matthias did this morning when I go, yeah, that's like a $25 book. He goes, really? They might not know.
I did.
But that's the thing is it's when you have inventory like that, they might not know that the book has gotten hot. So they might be like, well, I've got a bunch of them sitting there, Well, now you can go in and say, hey, I want to order the facsimile. And your shop is going to be like, why? I've got it right here. And then you can score a first print #1. It goes, I still want to order the foil.
Yeah. So moving on, 2 covers I really quickly want to show. Batgirl #9 has a Gotham City Sirens by Otto Schmidt. I love Otto's artwork, and it leads into an upcoming book we'll be talking about in a moment. And then Batman '89 Echoes final issue is being re-FOC'd. Due to the book getting delayed, it is now getting FOC'd again. So retailers, your previous orders at Lunar are in, but you can still adjust them. Customers, your orders are likely still there, but if you didn't have that order, I mean, look at this beautiful cover. Everything from a Batman '89, Harley Quinn, Robin, and Batgirl. Like, oh, if Tim Burton would have directed this movie, I would have just lost my mind. But back on FOC, so just want to point that out. You might already have your order in. Next up is Vault's Big Rig. Post Malone, one of the hottest pop stars out there, has his own comic. It is written by Adrian Wassel, along with art by Nathan Gooden. I love Nathan. He's a good friend. I've already flipped through this book. They had a preview at Free Comic Book Day. Hopefully you got it at your local comic shop. It is a beautiful book. I think this will be a fun book, whether you're a Post Malone fan or not. And yet, here I'm going to say something slightly negative. If you'll notice, you can order cover A. It is an open order. And then it jumps all the way to cover G, where we get our ratio variants. So where are covers B through F? If you're curious about that, they are in the Big Rig variant bundle box, which I am not the hugest fan of publishers doing this. Look, we all had fun with the Invincible Battle Beast blind bags. Hopefully you got one because you listened to us talk about it and you told your store you got however many you wanted or needed and everything was good. This is a different beast. A $60 box of variants with exclusive variants and other rare items in there just doesn't seem like my thing. It could be yours, and if it is, I don't mean to speak ill. Place your order with your local comic shop and get what you want. But this just doesn't feel like what I would ideally like to see in the
Right.
industry.
I've gotten boxes like this from much smaller publishers. Like Bliss on Tap, for instance, was a publisher I got a box like this from. That didn't nearly have the name recognition of Vault or Post Malone. Like, let's be honest. You know, Alex Cormack doing art is maybe the biggest name you knew from Bliss on Tap. This screams to me 90s gimmick.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel healthy for the book, for the consumer, or for the business. I get why they're doing it, but to me, this just seems out of place.
Yeah. I mean, not a huge fan. Now, that being said, like I said, I can enjoy Post Malone. I've heard one or two of his songs. He's a pretty cool dude. I definitely love Adrian Wassel. He is a wonderful writer. I love Nathan Gooden like nobody else. I actually have original artwork behind me of Nathan and a bunch in my living room. He is a brilliant artist. And I'm a huge Peach Momoko fan. So the Peach Momoko cover is unquestionably the route I'm going to read this book. I think Post is going to be in LA in like a month. Who knows? Maybe I might even go up and see the concert and check out the actual big rig that he is bringing along to his concert. But it'll be interesting to see if Post Malone's fans will be driven into comic shops to pick this up. There's a lot of interest in this. You know, I think you're going to have a great story with great artwork, but it's going to be an interesting gimmick, and we'll see how it lands.
And I will give credit where credit is due on this. Post is doing a lot of promotion. He is doing his best to drive people to shops to buy this book. So, with that in mind, I will give credit where credit is due. But again, there's just some of the marketing of this that just feels icky.
Yeah, it is a weird, double-sided thing because again, Post Malone drives people into hobby shops, comic shops, game stores. I mean, he talks about Magic the Gathering. He did a concert with Pokemon that sent people in. Post has followers. So, for retailers, that is something to keep in mind. For fans, it's how do you read it? But I don't know. This is an interesting one. I think you nailed it, in your depiction there, Kyle. So hopefully it is something that we will come back to the topic on for issue 2 with more positivity.
Yeah.
Another negative one I got to throw out. I hate the negativity I'm bringing to this show today, but Birds of Prey. I love Birds of Prey. It is an incredible comic. But for many of you guys, you have been collecting these incredible Rion Gonzalez covers. I love these paper doll covers Rion Gonzalez is doing. And this is the best one yet. Barbara Gordon with her various Batgirl ones. You have a wonderful mini Nightwing. You also have the absolutely amazing Bitewing right there. And here's the problem. The past handful of these have been open order. Why DC chose to last minute make this one a 1 in 25 incentive variant, meaning not every comic shop is going to qualify for it. And even if they are, they're likely not going to get the volume that they were selling of it being an open order. It is going to mean that people who have been collecting these covers are not going to have access to it. And that is extraordinarily disappointing on DC's behalf. So DC, I'm looking at you. That was not a cool decision. If you're a fan who loves Rion Gonzalez's artwork and these great paper doll variants, please reach out in advance to your local comic shop and let them know you want this cover. See if they qualify for it. See how much they're going to be charging for it. it's unfortunate. It's a bad decision from DC, who otherwise I love a lot of what DC is doing. So, nevertheless, Birds of Prey, great book. The interiors, great artwork, great storytelling. You're going to enjoy it no matter what. But if you were one of those cover collectors, it's an unfortunate twist. Next up, we have more Dave Pilkey. Dave Pilkey gave us a bunch of great Dogman comics, suddenly available not just through Scholastic but Lunar last week. Now we get the Cat Kid comic clubs, which are another popular one and a great one for comic shops to stock. If your local comic shop didn't have a Scholastic account and didn't get them before, now they can get them through Lunar. And we have a wide range of Cat Kids comic club items available to restock in your store.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a reason Dave Pilkey is responsible for $4 billion a year in book sales. And it's because his stuff is so great for kids, for adults. My 4-year-old nephew has just started reading Dogman with his mom. And like his mom is addicted to Dogman now.
Yeah.
So
I want to point out for all of you comic fans that think, oh, X-Men or Batman is the top selling comic. Stan Lee or Jim Lee are the top selling comic creators. They are
Not
a
by a mile.
fraction of a percent of Dave Pilkey with Dogman, which sells unfathomable record numbers year after year. It is the highest selling comic in the world.
Well, and Matthias, you're a couple years older than me, so you may have missed the Captain Underpants trend that hit real strong when I was in school. But I mean, that's where Dave really got his start, was Captain Underpants.
Yes.
And Scholastic Book Fair would come to school and they'd be sold out of Captain Underpants on the first day. Like it's that kind of, Dave has that kind of power to get kids to read. And again, it's content that even parents will enjoy. So,
yeah. I mean, I definitely remember the content coming out. I was well out of school by that point in time. But it was always something that I believe they even had an animated series and a movie, maybe possibly multiple, for Captain Underpants. So yeah, so Dave Pilkey, huge one. If you're a comic shop retailer and if you have kids in your store, this is a great thing to put in front of them. If you are a comic customer and you want to get a young reader into comics or want a guaranteed book that they will enjoy come gift giving, holidays or birthdays, this is one to reach out to your retailer and ask. Now, in the dead opposite end, and one that is not appropriate at all for kids, Devil's Due is back, coming through the new massive publishing line at Lunar. Circuit's Seduction Revenge is being resolicited now through Lunar, and you can get this interesting futuristic sci-fi craziness from Josh Blaylock, the same Josh Blaylock who brings us Mercy Sparks, who's written G.I. Joe and done so many other amazing things, the man behind Devil's Due himself. He is bringing us a story of a tech billionaire who is being hunted down by his sex bot. Quite the interesting and chaotic tale, and yet frighteningly seems like Elon Musk's future. So, Circuit Seduction's Revenge, that's what gets us kicked off YouTube right there. A lot of great covers on that one. Kyle is looking at me like, we're going to have a conversation for that comment afterwards. All right, guys. So here's one that Kyle's going to talk up. DC's Work in Progress All-Star Superman #1. It is an 11 by 17, so full art sized comic.
I prefer the artist editions that you said his name and I forgot his name already.
Scott Dunbier. He's probably one of more Eisners than anyone else, I think.
Yeah, the Scott Dunbier artist editions for sure. But the thing I like about these 11 by 17 books like this is that I'm the guy who will get this book and then will go to CAF or go on the internet and find the scans of the actual original pages and compare, because I'm that kind of nerd, right? Like I want to study the art. I have no artistic skills, so why I'm studying art, I don't really know. But it just fascinates me to see what the color is slightly changed, what the inker slightly changed from the penciler, all of that kind of stuff on a book like particularly this run of Superman, right? This is the Frank Quietly Superman, so it has Frank Quietly face. And listen, somebody has to approve of Frank Quietly face. So I want to see at what phase it really becomes. Anyway.
Well put, well put. So yeah, I mean, and $15 for a giant 11x17 comic is a great deal. It becomes a question of where you're storing it. But as DC is putting more and more of these out to join Image and a handful of other publishers who have done realistically only a handful so far, we might see the age of 11x17 short boxes.
They fit in your Treasury Edition boxes.
Well, so another one I want to point out, Titan is re-releasing Death Sentence as a complete collection. There is a direct market exclusive and a normal hardcover. Man, there are stories I could share on this, but one way or another, this is an amazing comic because it is content that deals with an STD that gives you superpowers. So definitely an interesting and amazing comic. One of these days, if you ever want to hear a very crazy death sentence story, feel free to, pull me aside at a convention or event or at my local comic shop, and I will tell you a crazy tale. But Death Sentence was an awesome comic series that came out from Titan. Now we're getting a $50 compendium of everything Death Sentence. It is
Wasn't
awesome.
this is I think Death Sentence is also in development or was in development at one point to be a movie or a series. I just don't remember.
I could definitely see it. It's an interesting tale. Another one I'm hoping to see as a big film or TV show is Descender from Dustin Nguyen and Jeff Lemire, getting a facsimile edition. Once again, all these Image facsimiles, you're getting traditional reprint, foil cover, and blank cover. So having Descender blanks, Dustin Nguyen, he's a pricey but by no means unaffordable sketch, at conventions would be a cool one. A lot of great trades and other things coming out from Image, Oni, even the incredible publishers like Silver Sprocket. So Everything Sucks, Kings of Nothing, now getting a trade. Lots of fun there. Here's a big one I have to comment on. Fell. Fell is one of the greatest Image comics that never finished. Warren Ellis, Ben Templesmith, about a detective thrown away to one of the darkest crime-ridden cities imaginable. It has been on a bucket list of I wish they would finish Fell for ages. And now we get a facsimile reprinting the classic #1 issue. In fact, I have to click on it. This was originally a $1.99 issue. It is now $3.99. But it's the modern era. It makes sense. I will buy a foil and a blank of Fell in a heartbeat. I would kill for Ben Templesmith to do a Fell sketch cover. I would love a foil copy of this. I am all about this, but I'm really all about this because Warren and Ben expressed interest in continuing and finishing Fell a while back, and things didn't come to, pass. With a facsimile edition, if everyone buys enough copies, maybe Image would agree to print this. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Kyle? All right, we'll move forward on that one. The future is. Kyle, you want to take that one? Talk about it. Come on.
Well, no. So back to Fell. I agree with you in that I would like to see it finished. But if that is indeed what Image is doing here with this facsimile, it'd be nice if they told us.
It would.
Moving on to the future is. Future is 2, second printing. Will be 404. With that great Mike Huddleston cover. I have not read issue 2 yet, but issue 3, which is on FOC, is of course the inimitable and I'm going to forget it, Rob Guillory
Yeah.
on
Choose
covers.
Rob Guillory.
Yes, who, by the way, just finished the last page he will ever draw on another series that he is known for. So
Farmhand?
be watching out for
Farmhand?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Oof.
So be watching for that in the future. There's a new series of Farmhand coming out. But in the meantime, he did this cover for The Future Is number 3. I'm very excited for The Future Is 2 and 3 when they come out. We've been doing a lot with The Future Is and The Future Is 1 here on the EXP. So it's one of my favorite books going for a number of reasons, mainly because I've never had a comic book that made me think about my days as a hacker before, and something about being a bad person with a computer is a good time. So
There you go. Now, this is one of those interesting ones. Why is issue number 2 having a second printing before we have issue number 2 in stores? Well, the reason is to make sure that these books are hitting time with the distributor and the publishers through printing. They are on a quick back-to-back FOC. So, yes, we are FOCing ahead of the previous issue release.
What Recca wants to do is to make sure these books are always available. So they may not even be out of issue 1. They may still be able to, or not issue 1. They may still have first printings of 1 and 2, but they will also have second printings of 1 and 2 available. So when first printings are gone, they'll just switch over to second printings, and so on and so forth.
There you go. Now, in the opposite end of things, something low-tech, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue 318. You got to love that Don Marino and Storm Shadow cover.
Low-tech.
But the big one, I got to point out, because the 1 in 10 on the last issue, which featured Scarlet, is going for a fortune on the aftermarket. The 1 in 10 this time now features one of the greatest Cobra characters, Storm Shadow. This is going to be insane. So, once again, reach out to your local retailer, ask if they are qualifying for the 1 in 10, if they're going to be available, and how much they're going to be, because it's probably going to be pricey, but that is an in-demand cover.
Okay, G.I. Joe low tech. Didn't most of them have laser guns?
I mean, 80s tech. I'm pretty sure we've surpassed the floppy disks and, other things that real.
They had guns that shot lasers. Sure, they couldn't hit anything, but they still shot lasers, okay?
I mean, stormtroopers had those in the 70s.
Right. We're not saying the technology's gotten better.
So I'm not going to talk about every facsimile. I love Godland, but we're going to jump on to Gotham City Sirens. They are back for their 3rd series. Leah Williams bringing them back after her awesome miniseries that previously ended, which means we're going to get a lot of the similar concepts. We're going to get a ton of amazing, sexy variants with our 3 femme fatale protagonists of Gotham City, as well as we're getting connecting Gilliam March covers in both normal and foil versions. So expect to get all of those again. Next up, we have Hero Trade. Actually, we'll talk about that at the end of the show, because that is a fun one. Hunter Killer and I Hate Fairyland both getting facsimiles. If you are not getting a I Hate Fairyland #1 blank, you are missing out on a lot of fun to be had. But I want to point out, perfect time, because I Hate Fairyland, well, it's all in trade, is about to relaunch with their legacy numbering. We talked about it a few weeks ago. Issue 42, I believe it is, will be the new legacy numbering. And perfect way to jump in with that #1 if you somehow missed out on it.
And if you watched last night's SketchUp show here on the EXP, Jay Fosgett, who was our guest, will be working on some of that new run of I Hate Fairyland with Scotty Young.
Indeed. Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong 2. Issue 2. A lot of 2s in that is coming out. Obviously, we got Cool Keith, the new Z2 book focused on the rapper Cool Keith. We talked with the incredible Sean Von Gorman last week. You can go back and watch that interview. and you can learn a little bit more about this amazing book that is now on FOC. Mark Spears Monsters, that book it will not stop selling. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to our top 10. More incredible facsimiles in the way of Monstrous. Another great Greek cover with Null Hunter. It seems everyone wants that. Miles Morales to Michael Walsh. These Greek covers are awesome. Also got to point out Old Guard, because Old Guard has a new movie coming to Netflix. A lot of great books. Make sure you check out lunardistribution.com so you can see all of them. Next big one we got to talk about is Planet Death. Planet Death has 1,000,001 covers, but this is Derek Kolstad of John Wick fame, Rob Venditti, Thomas Giorello. This is the first big new Bad Idea miniseries where they are breaking all of the old rules. There are variants. There are probably going to be digital editions. There clearly are trades now, but this one looks big. Planet Death from Bad Idea. A lot of covers, but some brilliant, beautiful covers too. Speaking of covers and later printings, Pop Kill just wrapped up. Issue 4 came out this past Wednesday, but we're getting a second printing of issue number 1 with, once again, a great blank cover. Tell me you don't want to get your favorite Pepsi, Coke, or other beverage done up in a battle on a Pop Kill blank. Like, Kyle, let's be honest. How many Pop Kill blank covers are you ordering? More than you feel comfortable with?
Seeing as how I missed it earlier, probably I will call and order 5 to 7 of that one, maybe 10. We'll see. The thing about Pop Kill is that it's a unique story with a unique art style. So getting blank covers is going to require a unique artist. Am I going to send one to Jimmy and one to Amanda? Yes.
There you go.
Because I'm that nerd. But the thing about it is I actually like that cover, the other cover of issue 1, more than I liked the issue 1 covers. So I really like that psychedelic cover. So again, like, there is no bad way to order Pop Kill number 1. So I'm definitely in for that.
All right. This is where I'm going to alienate at least a notable amount of our fan base because, well, I'm not a huge fan of Snyder and Rebel Moon. If you are, it continues with another 4-issue miniseries focusing on Nemesis coming out from Titan. I don't know how the movies are doing. I don't know if Netflix is going to continue funding them, but one way or another, you can continue with the comics on FOC this Monday. Then Revival. Now that we know has a TV series already on the way. Trailers are out, and there's a facsimile edition with foil cover and sketch cover. Great way to go there. A lot of fun on FOC. We talked about Sisterhood. There are all those awesome covers you can place your order in. I want to know how many people are getting all covers. If you're getting all the covers, let us know in the comments. Final issue of Solomon Kane on there. Some more Spawn fun with the Spawn Kills Everyone trade, Sam and Twitch, and Scorch. I love that they keep all the Spawn back to back right now. And then, with the movie hitting theaters in just a few short months, the Toxic Avenger is back with a brand new number 1 for a new series. All that trauma fun in comic book form.
I got to meet Lloyd Kaufman not long ago.
Really? How was that?
He was a very nice man for being absolutely insane.
So, speaking of second printings and covers that we like, oh man, Transformer 18, look at that one-armed Megatron. And then Transformers number 2, that is an incredible Patricia Martin cover. I absolutely adore that. It is amazing how Transformers just gets better with new printings. That being said, we're going to come towards the end with things like We Don't Kill Spiders getting a new series. I actually really love the We Don't Kill Spiders series by Joseph. It is a detective story with a massive like Viking berserker and a witch necromancer. It is a weird combination, but amazing. I mean, I know you're a fan of Joseph, right?
Yeah, Joe Schmalke is a great horror writer, but he doesn't take the traditional route on horror. He's not just out to scare you, he's out to reel you in and then scare you. It's like jump scares in comics, right? And We Don't Kill Spiders Volume 1 was great. It came out from Scout, and we weren't sure this was ever going to happen. This was supposed to be out a long time ago. But with a lot of the, some Michigas happened, some things went down. Joe went out on his own and formed his company, and then partnered up with Massive to get distribution through Lunar. And we're finally getting Season of the Witch, which is the volume 2 of We Don't Kill Spiders. So I'm very excited for this book. I've been waiting for it a very long time.
Yeah, this is a Midnight Factory. I know it was one of those things that when everything happened at Scout, Joseph had to put together Midnight Factory, solicited everything through Diamond. That didn't work, obviously, Diamond in the state that it is. So Massive was able to help Joe bring Midnight Factory to Lunar, and here is your first chance at finally getting this. Hopefully, we will get it in just a few short weeks.
Mm-hmm.
One of the last big ones, I gotta point it out. I will always be a Michael Turner fan. Michael was one of the greatest human beings on earth. I love the man. We get Witchblade getting a facsimile edition. We've had a lot of reprints of Witchblade over the years, and yet still, I will buy a foil edition and a blank any day of the week. I own countless versions of Witchblade #1. I own foil versions of Witchblade #1. I own countless versions of Witchblade #1 as blanks. I will still buy Witchblade as blanks because this is awesome. Just awesome. So, talking about covers and prints and everything like that, should we cut away to our top 10, Kyle?
Give me 1 second. There was a book I wanted to check on that I had seen solicitation on that I hadn't seen go through, and aha, it's delayed. Okay. We'll talk about it when it actually freaking comes out. Okay.
So let's talk about the top 10 for week of comics on FOC June 9th. And we are going to start it off. Let's start off with the honorable mention. The honorable mention is Hero Trade. I didn't want to put this in our top 10, but this is an incredible book. Most of you have not had the opportunity to read it because Hero Trade was done in very insane early Bad Idea style. The very first Hero Trade came out as a one per store that was a Bad Idea store item, and it was not marked as Bad Idea. It was done in a really tricky way of some no-name creator soliciting a book that you could order for your store. You would have to pay cover price to get it and then sell it cover price in your store. Most stores did not jump on that, and it became a several $1,000 book. Copies selling well over $1,000 on the aftermarket. It was the insanity you expected with Bad Idea for ages. And then it got worse as the various Hero Trade stories were things like the Pizza Detective story that Robert Venditti did that was only available for one day at select Bad Idea stores. It was insane getting these books. Getting these books went for ridiculous prices on the aftermarket. Then they did this over-the-top Kickstarter that was insane. Now you can get everything for $12.99. $12.99 gets you all the Hero Trade stories in one binding as a softcover with a brand new cover by Joe Quesada. I mean, Kyle, what do you think of that insane cover?
Well, that's the whole reason to buy this book. I read the original issues as they were coming out. I was lucky enough to get them. But
Very
Joe
lucky.
Q, man. Like, you can't go wrong with Joe Q art, especially on this cover. It's got a really cool sort of, I don't even know what I want to say, what I want to call it, like almost like a mobster movie sort of feel. You got a body in a trunk, guy sitting there on the phone in like a warehouse in the area. Like, I don't know. I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gives a vibe of the interior story. Not everyone was lucky enough to have a local store that was a Bad Idea store to even get Bad Idea books. And even if you were, it was nigh impossible to get these ones. These are amazing stories. David Lapham definitely top tiering it. Matt Kent doing great. I strongly recommend for $13. it is worth the mention in there. But let's get to the top 10. And first off, Gotham City Sirens. I love Leah Williams. She is not only a great person, she is a great writer. And this awesome Kyung cover is amazing. It easily hits number 10. Then number 9, another DC book, Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong 2, number 2, double the twos, double the fun. But the thing that I particularly love about this is it's that reminder of word bubbles on a cover. It's definitely a vintage, almost Silver Age concept that we don't get to see very often, but it adds a lot that makes it really enjoyable. I remember complaining 20 years ago when Dark Horse was putting word bubbles on Star Wars covers that I'm like, I don't know that I like this. I'm back to that point where I really enjoy it. I love the goofiness of that selfie, or I guess not really a selfie, but photo, giving you a different time frame of escalation, in the book. But everything about this catches my attention. I want more of this. Then we get a second printing in the top 10. Not a very common thing. Amazing Spider-Man number 4 gets a second printing by Pepe Larraz with both Gwen and Mary Jane on this. It is a haunting image, knowing where Peter's life is with these two girls now. And I think it's going to drive people to buy secondary copies who already have first printings. Then we get Magic number 7. Tell me you don't like that cover, Kyle.
That cover is gorgeous. That is, if this were my list this week, this would have been number 1.
Yeah. I mean, this is, in my opinion, the best of the new retro-themed Retrovision covers that Marvel is doing this month. But Joe Quinones did it right, because look at Kitty Pryde in that classic, cold weather gear that is 100% Uncanny X-Men 168's opening splash page. I just see Kitty shouting, Xavier or Professor Xavier is a jerk. Even the font texture for the no in there, all of that is just so wonderful. This is an amazingly retro and awesome, awesome book cover. So Magic always doing good. Then this is the second time I get to talk about Jose Gonzalez's classic Vampirella pose with the bat on the finger. And it's the second time Mark Spears is doing it. But this time he's not doing it on Vampirella. Connecting to Vampirella Armageddon number 1, though, Mark Spears' other piece on this is this Mark Spears Monsters number 6. So you need to go order Dynamite's Vampirella Armageddon number 1, the Mark Spears cover, and connect it to the Mark Spears Vampirella piece on Mark Spears Monsters number 6. But awesome piece. Great homage / nod to Jose Gonzalez's Vampirella. It's just awesome. All around awesome for spot number 6. Godzilla making it into the top 10 twice this week. We have Godzilla number 1. Arthur Adams has been doing Godzilla covers for ages, for literally decades, for multiple publishers. IDW, Dark Horse. I think he did some Marvel ones. And now we get this new Godzilla number 1. So can't complain. Number 4, Pinapocalypse. If you're not reading this fun zombie tale, Pinapocalypse by Andrew Tarasoff is amazing. Tarasoff did this amazing cover here. So just reminding you that if you like this art, this is the interior style too. But this is just one that I think is going to pull people who haven't picked up this series to grab it off the stands and check it out and then go dive for the back issues of the first 3. Then we get Chrissy Zullo's awesome It's Jeff Infinity Paws number 1 variant. All of our favorite heroes of the Pet Avengers joining. And then It's Jeff, or Jeff with that Infinity Gauntlet, the Infinity Pauntlet, I guess. Very cute one.
Can Jeff snap? I don't understand. When do sharks have arms? I have problems. Anyway.
All right, we're going to have to minimize me for a brief second because look at all that beauty on Mark Brooks' wraparound Marvel swimsuit special cover right there. I know this is going to be on one of the Marvel Art short boxes, which are actually above my head in the image there. But I'm looking forward to this comic. I'm looking forward to the short box that we FOC'd a few weeks ago. One way or another, Mark Brooks, he's always, I don't think there's a time in Mark Brooks' history, even when he was doing, interior kids comics, that I haven't adored his artwork. But man, that is a masterpiece.
That She-Hulk, those legs. We need
It's
to move on.
awesome. It's also a great size chart of the various women of the Marvel Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Number 1, the big one, Uncanny X-Men number 17. It's the first appearance of Mutina. I already pointed that out. Now, the main cover, it's silhouette. This is your big first cover reveal done by Ijikuri. Ijikuri's artwork definitely already demands massive attention as is. You're going to have the first appearance of Mutina and the first true cover appearance on this. It's going to draw a lot of attention. It'll be a big speculator book. It will likely see a nice aftermarket collection. So make sure you reach out to your local comic shop and advance order this before FOC this Monday. 6 p.m. should be the cutoff for most stores, Pacific Standard Time, on June 9th. Earlier you get your FOC in, the better. This one's going to be big. All right. Those are our top 10, but we have more this week on the EXP. What is coming up today, Kyle?
Well, tonight on Nikki's art show, he's got like a Batman cover and a Mr. Mxyzptlk page, which I said right 3 times yesterday. I couldn't get it right today. As well as Joe Sinnott, The Thing, and some other interesting art on the show. He's got a 2-page spread that when I saw it yesterday, somebody walked by and goes, "Hey, you need to close your mouth. You're going to catch flies." So his art show tonight is going to be nuts. So make sure you tune in for that. Then after that, Nancy is doing a vintage show. A lot of good vintage plus some new books on Nancy's Friday Night Live from Comics Unlimited. Monday, we'll be back with Comic Collectibles and Best Coast Comics, and Jay and I will likely do a second shift lunch live sale on Monday as well. Then Tuesday, Minute to Skim It with Miss Jen and Shanice. Welcome to Wonderland with Rich Davis from Wonderland Comics in Tennessee. And Kicking It with Henri. Wednesday, Comic Collectibles and Kyle and Jay's Q&A, where we will be fantasy casting characters that you've never seen on screen and likely will never, but who should play them when that eventuality never happens? And then Thursday, Miss Jen will be back. She's still working through this insane once-in-a-lifetime collection that she picked up that she's just had amazing books out of. The Geek Chat will be back talking about books that came out this week and next. And Mel and Mog will be back for Sketch Up with Mel and Mog. So they will be hosting again next week. Then next Friday, we'll be here.
I don't even know who our guests will be next Friday, what we're going to be doing next Friday. It'll be all sorts of excitement.
We should probably figure that out, homie. But yeah, that's what's going on the rest of the week. Stay tuned for other announcements. Check out our shorts and our reels. If you're on Instagram Reels, if you're on YouTube, check out YouTube Shorts. Also on TikTok, we're posting them as well. So make sure you're seeing everything. Our short for this show is Sean Von Gorman talking about how if you vote for him for the Eisner, it will probably change his life. So, maybe do that.
Well, we're a day too late on that. Eisner's cut off yesterday.
Well, but go watch it. And we will let you guys know. There's other stuff happening all the time. I've got new shows in development all the time. So we will be talking very, very, very soon.
Yeah, and definitely remember to share this with your fellow comic collecting friends, your customers, or your local comic shop. Let them know, because Final Order Cutoff is getting more difficult. It is unfortunate to say. I would love to say the otherwise, but I have been a proponent of FOC for many, many years, and for ages, I got that point of saying previousworld.com/final orders due down to people regurgitating it back at me as a joke. And right now, it is not the reliability. With 3 major websites you have to check: previousworld.com/final orders due, lunardistribution.com, and prhcomics.com. It's a little bit chaotic. Our show is here, happy to help and hopefully simplify it for you, for your comic shop, and more. But the best way to do that, to make sure people don't miss out on their comics, that they get their orders in by FOC so they have the books they want, the covers they want, set aside waiting for them at their local comic shop, is to spread the word about this show so everyone can take advantage of it and use it to find the information they want, to get the orders they need, and so comic shops can get you the comics that you have in your collection.
All right, guys, we are going to wrap up because Matthias has someplace to be very soon. And I have been sitting with my leg down for too long, and I'm going to be in an excruciating pain if we don't start ending soon. So we will see everybody next week here on Order Up. See you soon.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.